Hi, welcome to valuationpodcast.com, a podcast and video series about all things related to business and valuation. My name is Melissa Gragg, and I'm a financial mediator and valuation expert in St. Louis, Missouri. Today, I have the pleasure of interviewing Monica Garcia Duggal. She is a financial strategist and best-selling author and future TEDx speaker in Beverly Hills, California, with over 30 years of experience. She helps high-achieving entrepreneurs turn money into momentum and build wealth without burnout. She's also the creator of the financial Bytes method, which is a practical 5-step system for mastering business budgeting, investing, taxes, exit strategy, and SOPs. And today we're talking about scaling, selling, and staying ready, the Bytes method. So welcome, Monica. How are you doing today?
I'm doing so well. Thank you so much for inviting me onto your podcast. And I'm excited to share my information with your audience.
Yeah, this is amazing. So when we first kind of started talking about this, it became very clear that some of the deals that I deal with are a lot smaller than some of the deals that you deal with. And so this is going to be great because you can give people a perspective of not only what is involved with selling their business, but also actionable items of like getting ready and staying ready and also growing the business. So like you're a strategist as well. So
Yes,
I think if you could just kind of start us off by, a little bit maybe about your background or how you came to be, and we can get started on also some of the questions that we prepared. But tell us a
sure.
little bit about you and what you've been doing.
So basically, I ended up in investment banking 30 years ago, and so I just got really excited about it, loved it. My mom was an entrepreneur. All her friends were entrepreneurs, so she taught me a lot about business since I was a kid. So I just have loved business and finance. Well, when I got into investment banking, I was like completely sold. This is what I want to do, buy and sell companies. So I have done that for 30 years. I know everything from just personal finance to legacy finance, so the whole spectrum, and it's just because it fascinates me. So in my downtime, I'm even reading this stuff just because So I guess I've also taken classes at many of the top business schools all over the U.S. So I've been to like M&A at Chicago Booth, Wharton, Stanford, Harvard. I'm going to do Kellogg and then London. Also taken valuations classes at Columbia University. We went pretty deep there. So I have a in-depth background in buying and selling companies. Also, we sold a company 7 years ago. So, just our company that was amazing, and so it's very exciting to sell your company. I also did an amazing class at the University of Berkeley. It was at Booth Venture Capital, and so we had institutional investors, entrepreneurs who had sold their companies, and then just entrepreneurs. And so, yeah, I have a wealth of background. I do a lot of education, a lot of classes. And so I find it fascinating, love to help people do their best and just really walk them through the whole stage and be very personable in terms of what their needs are, because I think that's very, very important, because something that may be important to one person, maybe that's not what somebody else needs. So I think it's very important to be, uh, just to do things in a very personal way, and just ask a lot of questions and find out what people's real needs are.
Yeah, you have a tremendous depth of experience. And I think, we both kind of started in investment banking. I obviously went the valuation route, and you've gone into being a lifetime learner for this, but also you have experience in actually selling your company. And a lot of what we talked about and really what we're seeing happen right now is, and everybody talks about it in the exit planning space or, strategic planning, is we have baby boomer businesses that have to figure out what they're going to do. So they can either grow it, they can sell it, or they can shut it down when they get towards retirement. What are some of the patterns that you have seen on how they approach this decision making process, right? Because it's not just like, oh, okay, today we're going to shut the doors. It's almost like people just go, 1,000 miles a minute until they have to make some sort of decision. So how do you see them looking at these options?
Yeah, so definitely. So the baby boomers, they're just, it's such a big 2.3 million small businesses that they have, and so that there will be about $10 million, uh, 10 trillion, excuse me, dollars in business transfers there. And a lot of them, like you said, don't have a lot of succession plan, right? So maybe some of the kids don't want to run the company. They want to go do something else. And so here they've built this up. I know some of the properties. I just actually went to a workshop, which was amazing. And it was talking about like just their landmarks, even, right? Like, oh, go to so and so's shop and then to the right. I mean, these companies have been around for a really, really long time. So that is absolutely amazing. I do have an analogy for these baby boomers because I know that they're so busy working their business, right? And there's so many pieces to it, right? You got your customers, your product, just so many facets. So what the way I have my analogy is, you know, you kind of have to think about these things, exit strategy, right? And so many times we don't want to think about it because maybe, we did want to get our kids to get ticket. Like, that was our plan. And so maybe sometimes we get a little bit disillusioned that way. Or it's almost time to think about like retiring. And so there's a lot of things we don't want to think about. And that makes perfect sense. But the on the other hand, my analogy is if you're trying to sell a property, right? And it's in a great neighborhood and it's a pretty nice property, but if you don't get it ready to sell, you're going to leave a lot of money on the table for no reason at all. So if you put a little bit of investment into your businesses, right, bring in some teams to do a few things, and just it's almost like you have to have that conversation with yourself and say, I work so hard on this business. It's a beautiful love, of theirs mostly, right? Because they put their time and their effort and showing up every day to just, finish it off strong, right? Put some time and effort, right? Put some a little bit of investment, so then you get the big investment on the other side, and you don't leave a lot of money on the table. So these little pieces of maybe reaching out to someone, bringing in a consultant, right? Systematizing, cleaning up the place. And I'm not saying that they're all like this. I'm just giving different pieces. Maybe this is probably maybe something they should look at. Maybe this other owner does it this way, right? But at the end of the day, if you could look at maybe it holistically at five things that, if you get all these things up to par, not immediately, but because you're starting to think that you're going to sell it, you're going to do really, really, really well. Plus, you're going to be very proud of yourself because you have put all that time and effort, and just realizing, yeah, that is going to be a lot of work, right? And that's one of the reasons that we avoid it. But it is possible to do it in just bite size. And
Yeah.
that's where my financial bites method comes in.
I love that. Well, and quite frankly, what we see is that most baby boomers, specifically this age demographic, may not have family members that want to continue the legacy of the business. And so they do kind of ignore this retirement thing. And so, quite frankly, they should kind of start to then focus on growing it and continue to grow it and make it a better business that is going to be sellable in the future, because when you guys went to go sell, you actually did hire a consultant. Like you might have had a great business, but you still took it the extra step and hired somebody to come in and clean it up. And what did that, like, before we get into the bites, because I think that's a great discussion of action items, but like you guys had to do the same process. And so what did that look like for you to bring somebody in that was basically going to say, some of this is not so great. You got to fix it. And that doesn't feel good as a business owner if you think you have like an amazing company and product, right?
Yeah, yeah. So basically what happened is we tried to put it out in the market and there were no takers because we were so connected to it that if we sold it, it's we were so connected to it. So we did excuse me, we did invest and bring a consultant in, and it was very expensive. And so basically, all they did, and so we rebranded. There's different things. That's what we needed for our company, and it took us 3 years to get everything up and running. So we got all of our systems in place. We marketed everything, and then so that in the third year, then when we went out, we actually had a few buyers, and we ended up doing really, really well with the exit. And it was amazing to have that clarity and those systems in place, right? Where somebody could actually just see, like, okay, think about it this way. I'm using my house analogy again. If you go into a house and you're like, yeah, the hinge is a little off, or just little things like that, and they're not a really big deal. But if you're competing against another house and that house is turnkey, right? Somebody went in, took care of these little things that probably didn't cost a lot of money, but somebody paid attention to those details. That's exactly the same thing you can do for your business. It may not even cost that much to, put in some systems, start, maybe doing a little bit of marketing on online, etc. Because I know that it's a different generation, so some of these pieces are not up to date. So to do that, like, you could do really, really well. I mean, you could literally, like, probably bring in a couple more X's into the sale of your company, taking care of these things. Plus, when a buyer looks at it, you're going to have a better conversation, more power even in that conversation, right? And you could even put it at a nice price where now you have a few people that want it, not just one. I mean, that's the exact same thing that you would do if you were selling a house, right? You would take care of it, make it look, and put a reasonable price, and then people are like, "Whoa, this is really nice," or "This runs really well. I want this," right? Like,
Yeah.
if I buy it, I can just start take off from where this person is. Also, if the company is so important to some of these baby boomers, right? Like, that is a legacy as well. So they get to maybe even find a better buyer that could carry on all the
But
work that the
using your same analogy, like if we go into that house and you loved your 70s style kitchen, right? Like loved it, loved the mustard color or the olive green that had memories to you. But somebody else comes in and they're like, gosh, this is outdated. This is not clean. It looks kind of dingy. The same thing is happening to business owners is they're like, yeah, I think my business is perfect. Like I have great customers, I have money coming in, I've made a good living, but I think they don't understand tangibly what to do. And that's kind of how your Bytes framework comes into play and really gives them exit preparation that maybe is more attainable. And so can you break down kind of the Bytes framework, because this is going to take somebody that says, you know what, I'm making a ton of money. That should be enough to sell this company. It's not always. And it gives them maybe a framework to then build up in these areas. The bites each mean a different like focus. You have to start to see where are you maybe ahead of the game and where do you need to start to change some things.
Right, right, right. So basically, I really like your question. So that's like, let's say we're selling your house, right? So if we're selling your house and you're like, oh no, this kitchen, I I imported all of these pieces, right? So the reality is somebody is going to appreciate that, right? So what you're looking for is you're looking for the right buyer. So maybe you could keep some of that, but yes, go through the bites, like the budget, right? If you're already making tons of money, great, right? Let's make sure that we have an accountant that comes in that's neutral, just so we get all of those books in order. So when the buyer comes in, you're set. You're like, look, this is transparent. I had somebody, a third party, come in that has nothing to do with us. And then if you do that, and then if you go into like the investing, actually, I really like the investing in my bites for people, and I'll tell you why. Because if you are going to sell your company, or you're going to grow it, like, what are the things that you want to do? Like, where do you want to grow, right? And so if you really think about the investing, then that kind of can give you also a framework for all the expenses, right? What are you going to pay for the investment banking firm? What are you going to pay for taxes? What are all these things? How much do you need to live the life that you want to live? And so you really start looking at that, because maybe you haven't looked at that for a while, because you've been making good money. Now something's changed, right? Or at some point you're going to I don't know, just really put some time and effort to think of that, and putting money back into the company. Also, for the investing, for example, if you're going to bring a consultant in to help you, right? So
Yeah.
all of that could be part of the cash that you have. So just really taking a look at that, not in terms of a budget, but in terms of how can you invest a little bit now so you could get a lot in the future.
Well, and this goes back to, because we still have the rest of them to go through, but this goes
Yeah.
also back to if you're investing in technology. And right now, what we know is AI is changing everything. So you could have been a 20, 30, 40, 50, 80-year company, right? And had wild success. But now you have to figure out, what are you investing in? Like, why do they need you in the room? And why do they need your people? Or do you need to become thinner and more limber with this process? So I think investing is really investing in the company, and then trying to figure out, this is where a consultant really does come into play, because you may think investing money into certain areas is going to result in a higher value because you value those areas, but you really need to get a perspective of it, of what are the buyers valuing out there, and are those your target people to kind of talk to in this process? So that's a really good area to talk about. I
Right,
love
right.
that
Yeah.
process.
Yeah, and that's a good, I mean, that is like one of the most, like, as a CFO, that's one of the most important ones, really. I put them all there, right? They all seem equal, but really at the end of the day, if you think about your dollar, what are you doing with that dollar, right? What are you doing with that dollar? Are you right? Are you gonna just, do everything as normal, or are you going to be thoughtful and say, hey, well, what's going to bring me the highest return on my investment, right? What's going to bring me more money? And so now you're looking at it from a completely different angle, right? Rather than being in the business, you're kind of observing the business and saying, what is the next step for this business? And so definitely, that really is the whole, like, that would be everything that a business is. I'm not going to talk about profit here, because a lot of these businesses are already profitable, but right.
Right.
But really, it does give you a different angle to view investing, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And after and I think we could do an entire podcast on the investing. But again, I think the biggest point is, you can't look at, like, if you really want to eventually sell, you can't look at this within the box that you have been looking at it with your own CFO, with your own management team. You guys are looking at this from one perspective. If you can look at it through the lens of a consultant or a consultant team, then you're looking at what is going to actually give me the most bang for my buck. Now, again, whether you're looking at selling or growing, right? You may also not know, like, people are scared of online marketing. People are scared of AI using online marketing. Like, that's an investment in knowing, does it benefit you to not only grow your company, but if you grow your company, you're obviously going to make more when you sell it. So they're all kind of steps in the ladder of eventually getting to sell. And, part of that is also taxes, I think, is the next one that we move
Yeah.
towards.
Before we go to taxes,
Yeah.
I really, really, really love what you're saying, because I think you're right, spot on. When we brought in our consultant, exactly, there were things that we were like, right? Like, we didn't think about, like, why would we even do that? I mean, our consultant literally he clashed with a lot of our employees, but we did really well at the end. We did really, really well at the end. So I love that you said that, right? Let's not do business as usual, right?
Right.
If we want to get more money, right, let's get an outside perspective. So, right, and these guys, they come in very neutral. They come in telling you, okay, this is what the market's doing. This is how, if you want to really get this done, this is what you're going to have to do. And we definitely listened. And I was very happy with the consultant, but it was tough. It got a little tough, but
Well,
hey,
it's what
if
everybody
you
doesn't want to
yeah,
face in this valuation world as well. It's like, what's the value of the company? Well, if you're going to sell, it's what
yeah.
the market's going to bear. It's what somebody's going to pay for your company. And then an advisor's job is to get enough people or get enough knowledge about the company to push that value up in the buyer's eyes. And
Yeah,
so I think, again, if you're, like, not only from the investing of looking at your financials in a different, like, you could have been like, well, we've been doing our financials in a certain way. You have somebody come in and audit them or review them, and they're going to say, this is a very inefficient way of
exactly,
reporting your financials. And,
exactly.
and, sometimes you have a CFO or an accountant that's been with you for decades. So they haven't changed and moved with the times. And that's going to be pretty, even if you don't keep up like your warehouse. Like, we've had site visits where somebody comes in and there's like holes in the ceiling of the warehouse, or
Yeah,
there's things that just could have cosmetically
yeah,
just not been this big eyesore, literally,
yeah,
when you're coming in. So those are the types of things that and it's being ready when they call. Like, if you get a call or if you get somebody, because at any time, people coming through your space could be a potential buyer in the future,
yeah,
right? They're
that's
they're
right.
paying attention to even your culture and how you deal with people.
Mhm,
Like,
mhm.
that makes or breaks the deal sometimes in the future. Money is one of the things that everybody looks at, but it's also culture. It's also the legacy. It's the
Yeah,
reputation. It's the credibility. These are important things when somebody buys your company.
right, exactly. Right, it's holistic, right? When you walk into the house, it's everything. Who are your neighbors?
Absolutely.
Like, yeah,
Right. Okay, so now we're at the taxes, which is BIT. So now we're at taxes. What
yeah.
do we need to know about this space?
Okay, so I think for like taxes, definitely get like a professional to start helping you take a look. If you're going to exit, right? How much are you going to want? Because sometimes people don't consider this, or what are ways, right? If there's different ways to deal with it, but you have to deal with it. That's the reality. Sometimes people want to wait until the end, or they just don't think about it, and you have to think about it. And that's why it's in the middle. It just kind of came out in the middle, but I really think that it's so important that people just, and the reality is, we all know they change every single year, right?
Right.
So it is definitely important to, even just regularly, right? Talk to your, like, somebody that is really, really great with taxes and selling businesses. Um, that's definitely I find it very, very important, and I just think a lot of people try to avoid it because they do change
Or
every year.
or they go to their financial provider, like their financial planner or advisor, and they say, okay, how much money do I need to retire? And they'll be like, oh, you need $5 million. And that is, after like maybe you need like an $8 or $10 million
Love that. I
exit.
love that.
And
I love that.
everybody's like, okay, well, I need 10 million for my company. And I'm like, you got EBITDA of like $50,000. Like, I don't know
Right.
how we're going to get to a 10
Yeah.
million, like even just from a big picture kind of view. So I think it's not just understanding what you need to retire, but starting to match that what you need is, does that even have an indicator
Yeah.
of value?
Yeah, and I absolutely love what you're saying right now because I think that especially if you already have your company and you're doing well, like to grow that, it's really, I mean, you have everything already. You have customers, you have everything you need. For you to grow that, it's actually not that complicated. So if in fact, your EBITDA is 50,000, but you really need 10 million. I mean, maybe you need to work for another 3 to 5 years and you can hit your number, but you will have to bring in consultants and you will have to think a little bit differently of how you're doing everything. But it's not, I mean, you're already doing it all. You're
Yeah.
already doing it all. There's, and that's where you could go to the investing, right? Like, where do we go? How much should we allocate for this? And so I think like consultants, like a strategist would be able to help you with that, right? Maybe there's some products that you can put to bed. Maybe there's other products. Maybe your customers are already asking you for stuff and you just haven't really listened to them because you're like, but maybe now it's time to listen to them. Like, oh, wow, look at this. We're upselling, our clients are telling us what they want. So
Yeah.
so just little things like that, and they make such a big difference in your business. And it's really just about taking action on some of these things that are already there. They're already in your space.
Well, and there's some complacency, I think, whenever you're successful, whenever you're making money, you're kind of like you get into a groove. And I think that it's important what you talked about earlier is that you guys had a consultant come in and it took 3 years. And so a lot of times we see the baby boomers have a health scare, or they all of a sudden their spouse, I see this a lot, their spouse is like, listen, you've been a workaholic for our entire life. We have enough. I want to travel. I want to be with you. And I think that a lot of times business owners think that we're just like marketing to them and saying, "Oh no, plan 3 to 5 years in advance." But this is the truth. Like, having an exit strategy is more important because it could be 3 to 5 years in the future. And even planning to exit your baby company, like, and leaving that family, that place that you've gone every single day for decades, is a process of kind of disconnecting as well. So talk to us about exit strategy, because I think this is a big one.
Yeah, I think I always joke around with this one. I say, "Okay, Melissa, you're gonna move to a new house, right? Like, are you gonna take everything in your house?" And you're, well, that closet that I haven't opened in like 10 years, probably not. That other room over there, right? So that's all a pretty much an exit strategy is. It's like think about if you're going to move, what are you going to keep and what are you going to leave behind? And if you can just run your business that way, you're going to take care of that hole in the wall. You're going to take care of all of these little things that, they just kind of become part of the background, but they're little things that need your attention, and that goes into your budget, and that goes into like your product, and that goes into your employees. So it goes into every part of it, right? It's almost like you're doing a spring cleaning. That's the way I look at exit strategies. Like, right, like, if you wanted to go out away for like a month or 6 months, your business is going to be able to run just fine. And that's another thing. If you get your company ready to exit, you could keep it and you could take trips, and your wife isn't going to be upset because, right, we're not doing these things. And then you could come back because your systems are there, which leads us to my final one.
I know. And this is the hardest one. Like, a lot of people start as small businesses, solo entrepreneurs, and then they have an idea that just blossoms, right? And so now they add people. And you're exactly right. If you really just want a business and you don't want to sell it, you just want to grow it, then you got to remove yourself out of the equation and you got to figure out how it's going to make money without you. But this takes it one step further, and is like, not only that, but if you have other people working for you and now you have a team, you have a management team, you have employees, you have 100 people. If you don't have standard operating procedures, I think you're a little bit sunk. It's almost like this is kind of a place that you would be focused on to get to a 10 million of revenue, a 50 million of
Yep.
revenue. And if
Yep.
you're not doing some of these things, that could be why it seems like you're a workaholic,
Yep.
because you are. And it's a control thing, but also it's not trusting your team.
Mhm.
It's a whole bunch of things. So talk to us about this important one.
Yeah, so definitely building your systems, and I'm really liking what you're saying. I was listening to your podcast with the fractional CFO, and that was amazing because some of the stuff she was talking about in terms of doing the accounting for people, and like oh wow, COVID happened, and this was still being done this way, or finding better deals, or just all of these little pieces. And so the standard operating procedures will give you a clear indication of what actually is happening in different pieces of your business. And I think that's where, after years, after growing so much, you kind of lose track of all of this, but it is extremely, extremely important. So, and I think about this, Melissa, like maybe even starting a company to just send like these operators in for, just to help, like psychologists to go ahead and help. You have your operator with your psychologist both going in together as a team, and to just really create these systems, right? Let's do a diagnostic test, right? Like seriously, like you take your car in to get a diagnostic test, right? To make sure that it's all up and running. You should be doing that to your business as well regularly,
Well,
because
and
that
that's
will save you a lot of money, a lot of money.
it is. And I think that, what I see is business owners get to the point where they're like, okay, I've faced the music. Maybe I'm 70, right? Maybe I'm 75. Like I start to realize there's nobody coming in the family to do this business. I've created something that's amazing. I may not even have technology running, which looks like an opportunity to a buyer, right? But exit readiness looks a little different, and it is being ready long before the sale. So if we take all of the Bytes and we put them together, what are some of the things that you see buyers really, really wanting a business to possess or have? And how do we get that ready long before the sale so that it's ingrained? It's not like, oh, we just got a management team last week, like we have a functional, like we have a culture, we have a this, of that. What does
Yeah,
that look like?
yeah. I love that question, Melissa. And you know what it basically boils down to? If I'm going to go and buy your company, Melissa, and I'm going to bring all my management team, all they're going to do is create operations. That's simple. So if you take the initiative to create your own operations, then you could sell it for top dollar. For So rather than they're going to bring in their management team, who knows, right? Like
Yep.
in terms of the legacy, or if there's values that you guys are the same, or you like the company that's buying your company. Like I think if those things are important to you, to get prepared before, you're going to meet those things that are important to you at a higher rate than if you just wait and don't do anything.
Yeah, it's like all of the things that are bad about the situation, or you just know in the back of your head that I should fix the hole in the warehouse, like I should clean out
But think
this
about it.
yeah.
Yeah, think about it this way. If you could just hire somebody to go take care of all of that stuff, right? You don't put it doesn't even cost you that much, but somebody to go in and start taking care of all these little things, right?
Right.
Little things, right? And it's just because you just have not gone around to it, right? The customers love you, right? Or this, or all of these other things are just going so great. So if there's things that you're not great at, it's okay. Just bring somebody in to help take care of that.
Well, and it makes sense because you're right. A lot of times when somebody's purchasing, especially big buyers, if they're going to purchase things, companies as a roll up, if they're going to purchase several companies and
Right.
create a platform, they're going to wipe out your management team. And so the
Yeah.
more you have a turnkey operation, which is kind of
Yep.
what you talked about earlier,
Yeah.
they're less likely to come in and sweep out. Like they're more likely to keep everything going as it is
Yeah.
for at least a year or two or three, even during the earnout period.
Yeah.
And then another area, though, that I think people are concerned about is cultural alignment. And do you see this making or breaking transactions? And what does this look like when you're kind of looking for potential buyers?
Yeah, I think that, for example, the turnkey, that puts you in a better position to find somebody that's going to take care of your company when you leave. So I think that, like for our company, even, right? It was, since we did such a great job in getting it ready and making it turnkey, a lot of our, the people that we have worked with, our employees, stood with the company because they did well. They rolled really nicely into the new company. So I think that then that was a good cultural fit for us, right? Because then they were going to take care of the employees. Plus, the employees that were there were going to keep them very successful as well, right? Because they know all the clients, they know how to do the work, everything. So it was a really nice alignment. So we were very happy about that.
Well, and a lot of what has rolled up in like the accounting world is that there are, various advisors in the accounting M&A transaction world, and they are advisors, but they also have the pulse of the industry. So they know who's buying, what they're looking for, what their culture is, and they literally will come in and say, you know what? You're a fit with these three top companies or these three regional companies or these three, middle market companies. And having an advisor that has a
Mhm.
knowledge base for your industry is really going to be like, if I'm constantly doing dental practices or I'm constantly doing manufacturers or steel mills, I'm going to know going into it, well, my last set of buyers had these issues with the seller. Like that's going to be information that you should know about your industry, and then be aware of how the cultural blend is going to happen. Because the fact of the matter is, you can't protect your people. Whatever you believe, once you make that deal and you transact that company, you are not in control anymore, right? So finding the right buyer, if that's important to you from a
Mhm.
legacy standpoint, is only going to be because you hopefully trust that they're going to keep your business running and your people employed, right?
Mhm.
I mean, but
Yeah, yeah.
they don't have to.
No, no, of course, but then obviously the employees, right? There's some that are really into it, and they're committed, and they love their work, and they're gonna create good benefit for the new owner, right? The buyer. So obviously at some point as well, there's no control there either. Like you'll have to keep these employees. Well, if they're star players and they're adding value, of course. But if they're not, I mean, I mean, gosh, that's just another story.
Right. Well, and one of like both of us are pretty passionate about a couple things. And I think also understanding AI. Like you talked about deep focused work, but where are you seeing AI really helping business owners, and where is there not a substitute for human thinking? Like where do we still need to be in the room, and how can we use AI? Because this is an opportunity, I think, for specifically for baby boomers. Either they're going to exit because they don't want to deal with AI or online marketing or this technology advancement, or they're going to capitalize on it, and I mean could exponentially even double the value of their business in a very short time. So where do you see this going, and where has your focus been? Because as a thought leader, I think that it's important for how you view, this M&A world as well.
Yeah. So there's actually a really amazing a master class on AI. So that is a good way to like learn like how to create your GPT. The another thing is when you're using AI, be clear on what it is that you're looking for, and then also have a cutoff spot, because it will give you information and more and more and more, and sometimes that's counterproductive. So also you have to check to make sure that the information is correct. So maybe doing some cross, like, you know, in other finding other resources, but it's an absolutely amazing uh, system, and it will help you get ideas. Also, for example, even for decision making, right? Do I want to sell it? Like, what are my options? Right? Give me 5 options, right? Um, right, with like reasons or pros and cons, right? So they can do these types of questions to AI, and and after a while, AI will figure out who they are and their interests, and it will actually really be helpful. So definitely, it's extremely easy, and I think that baby boomers can completely get a lot of value. But definitely, at some point, just have your question come back another day, because it will give you a lot of information. It will just keep giving it to you. And sometimes, it becomes counterproductive because it's way too much and you can't
Well,
act on everything.
well, and when you get involved, okay, so if somebody's reaching out to you and they're like, okay, Monica, I want to 10x my company. Like, I have an exit strategy. Maybe it's 5 or 10 years in the future, but like, I want to work with you. And are you typically also bringing in kind of specialty people like in AI or websites or branding or things like that, and assembling kind of a team that they're relying upon? Or is this a lot of, they need to do some of the work or they need to hire internally? How do you kind of structure when you get involved?
Yeah, so basically, for that specifically, if they're not going to sell, but they want to like 10x, the way I get involved is I we have uh, collaborations in terms of I have to do a lot of deep
Like
work in their
interview,
business.
research? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I definitely have to like get all the pieces, and then see where how they see their business, and then how I see their business from the outside, and then we just start creating. Maybe they have some of their ideas, like if they wanted to 10x, what is working, what do they have now, what are potential areas that they could possibly easily move into, like some economies of scale, right? So we do quite a bit of different intakes, because everybody is different, right? Maybe somebody is more comfortable just acquiring companies, or maybe somebody's more interested in growing a product, or doing some kind of not really a pivot, but maybe something that is not too far from where they're at, but can bring a lot more cash in, and maybe less expensive in operations, right? So there's a many things that we take into consideration, and I think again, I'm always about the person, right? How do they feel about different vehicles out there, about different investing styles, products? Are they strong in one area? And if they're strong in that area, then maybe, we go that way, because that's going to be easier for them. That's the other thing, is I try to make it as seamless as possible. So I'm not like, oh, this is the newest trend, because guess what? The newest trend may work for somebody else, but it may not work for this person. And at the end of the day, we want the person to be successful in what their goals are. So
Yeah,
definitely a lot of
absolutely. I mean,
questions.
at the end of the day, it's either about increasing revenue, decreasing expenses, making a better team, a better full picture that somebody's going to come in. And if there are things that if somebody would question you about your company and you don't feel comfortable saying the truth because it doesn't feel like it doesn't lead you in the best light, those are probably the areas you need to focus on first. and get somebody to come in and get and be ready to listen to that advice, because it's not going to feel great. Most of the business owners that I know, that when they have a consultant come in and they start to hear some of this advice, it kind of, they take offense to it, because it's like, you're basically calling my baby ugly. Like you're saying that I didn't do a good job. So it's really being open for collaboration with the advisors so that you are both working towards like a higher value. But if business owners are listening right now and they want to know more about the Bytes, right? Because we kind of briefly talked about it, they can download something in more depth on your website. But where is the best place for them to find you, explore your programs? Like where are you focused, and what would make a great client to come to you? Like what types of businesses typically call you, and what type of programs do you have to offer them?
Okay. So if it's somebody that wants to keep their company and wants to grow,
Or
then
sell. Like I think that the baby boomers think that they want to grow, but really they should be focused on selling, because it's just a natural, it's not like you're going to die, right? I
right,
think that it is the next progression. Like think of it as like you could still be a business owner. You just might exit this one and start another one, or start something that you are not as heavily involved in, right? It's just
right,
a
right,
stage in the process.
right. So definitely, if they're going to sell, it would be Infinity One, www.infinityon.com. And then I also
But
have
tell us
another.
more about like if they were to hire you or to come into your situation, like you have programs, you have ways that you're working, you've written books, like a lot is going on. You're going to be a TEDx speaker. Like you're really a thought leader in this space. And what is kind of your ideal prospect that would work with you?
So the other website that I have is www.monicagarciaduggal.com. And basically, just to do like an intake, like what is it that you're looking for? And once we do that, we can identify what I have a few different offerings. And let's say if they do want to get ready to sell, then we could do, just getting them ready to do that. And then so I try to do everything in bite size again. And the only reason that I do that is because, sometimes when you're going to do something so big as exiting, there's a lot going on there. So my goal is to make you as successful and make you as much money and satisfied as possible. So in terms of doing that, then we have to walk through what are the different steps to get you to point B.
Yeah, and we'll kind of repeat the Bytes method is like your 5-step system for the budgeting, investing, taxes, exit strategy, and SOPs. That is a great place to start. So you can start with her framework. I think it's really actionable items, and I think it is taking this down to a level that you can, you know, that is in small portions that you can easily go through, and then to reach out either via email or phone number would be a great place to start. But I think you have to stop putting your head in the sand for this eventual exit, because what you don't want is a health issue or some other factor or a life change, right? Like it might not even be your health issue. It could be your family member or your parents or your spouse or something like that, where you want to put your time into a different endeavor. And those are not going to be the times where you're going to get an exponential exit, right? It's going to be if you're prepared, if you've done some of the steps, and if you've really cleaned up house for your
Mhm.
company. So,
Exactly.
Monica, what are some other things that maybe they should know about as some parting advice, if they're considering selling or they're kind of on the fence about whether they're ready?
Yeah, I think, I there's other amazing things that, kind of like just a shift in perspective in terms of this whole process, rather than, like you said, being resistant, just saying, hey, be curious about it. Like, hey, this can, like, what is the best case scenario? Like, hey, maybe that would happen, right? So just start moving forward in that light. Like, wow, I've built something really amazing here. And just to say, I can get everything I want from this business. Like, just even having that perspective, like, that is possible because it's real, it's thriving, right? You obviously did a really great job in it. So it's almost like, just keep, finish it off. And there's so many other pieces to life that you could possibly just really enjoy as well, right? Like, do well with your company, whether you sell it, right? Like, there's so many things out there that unfortunately we forget about, just because we just haven't really thought about it, or we haven't had the time. So even to see how cool that opportunity, like, whoa, like, I never knew. And I think, finally, Melissa, the whole thing that you're saying about waiting, like, you can be proactive, and you can make this a really great situation for yourself. That is
Yeah.
completely within your grasp. It really truly is. It's, you just have to reframe all of this, right? Just
Yeah.
reframe it. This could be like one of the best things that you've ever done. And also, just remember all the hard work that you put into this business.
Yeah, it's the power of manifestation and actualization of that reality. And I think that if you think that it's going to be a horrible process, then it will. And if you think that it's going to be easy and you'll be ready when it is time to sell, then at all points, everything that gets you ready to sell is also going to make you more money. So, I
Exactly.
mean, they go hand in hand. So,
Yeah.
either way, finding a consultant that you connect with or reaching out to you, either way, you're putting some effort into this proactive stance. And that should alone really get you to a much higher exit value.
Right,
So,
right. Yeah, definitely. And I speak from experience. It completely worth it. It is completely worth it. It is some work, but hey, you already done a lot of work. You know how to work. It's not like
right.
that's not in your wheelhouse, because that is completely in your wheelhouse. So
Yeah,
it's
I
like,
love it.
yeah, enjoy the process. Enjoy the process.
That's awesome. Well, we appreciate you and we
Thank
hope to
you.
see you again because there's lots of other areas we could dive into, including our passion, which is, helping clients and looking at technology in the future and being proactive in this process. So thank you, Monica.
Thank you for having me, Melissa.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Thank you.